Hey, howdy, hey, friends and neighbors. Scott Sexton here, and we're going to learn about alcohol and tincturing, demystifying proof. That's a sort of play on words there. Um, so let's just start. What is proof? Well, in the United States, it's very straightforward. I mean, it's so easy. I'm not even sure why they bother having it anymore. But proof is basically double whatever the percent is of the alcohol. So if you have a 100 proof alcohol, that means 50% of that liquid is alcohol. A 190 proof alcohol is 95%, uh, because 295s is 190. That's what it is. And a 15% alcohol, if we did this the other way around, if you want to change it from percent to proof, just double it. So a 15% alcohol is 30 proof. Now in the UK, it's different. And good luck on that because it's a lot more complicated. It's something like the proof of the alcohol, like a 100 proof alcohol is 12/13 the weight of water, something like that. It's complicated. So if you're in the UK, hey, good luck on that. That one's all you. When I talk about proof in this presentation, just assume that I'm talking about the US proof. So relative strengths of the percent of alcohol for tincturing, casually. That's what I call casual tincturing. The sort of the standard is somewhere between 40 to 50% alcohol. For a more serious plant, you'd want around 70, and for something that's just plain stubborn, you want around 90, at least 90% alcohol. Now let's see how this is going to break down here. In the 40 to 50% range, 80 to 90 proof, this is the standard range. This is a good amount of alcohol for dried herbs, or for fresh herbs that aren't too juicy and wet, aren't too succulent. This is fine for really most of the tincturing that you'll be doing. This has a good mix of alcohol and water, and that's important because the alcohol pulls out some constituents and water pulls out other constituents, and sometimes a chemical will be pulled out by alcohol or water, but some things really only like alcohol, some things only like water. And this 40 to 50% range is good because it has enough alcohol to preserve and protect what it's pulling out, to keep it from spoiling. But it has enough water and alcohol to get all of the constituents, or a really wide range of constituents, out. At about the 70% range, this has a lot more preservative power. So you want to use this on herbs that have a lot of water in them, things that are very succulent and moist. Something like berries, or like purslane, if you were going to tincture that, because it has a lot of moisture. This is also good for fluid-filled roots. In the picture there I have ginger. That's really a rhizome if we're going to be technical, but who has time to be technical? But it would work for that. If you wanted to make a ginger tincture, you could do it with about a 70% proof. I'm sorry, 70% or 140 proof. Let's not get our terms mixed up. This is also a little better for essential oils. You can do it with the 40 or 50%. But this just has a little more power for pulling those essential oils out. Remember, oils are not water soluble, so water doesn't tend to pull the oils out very well. But the alcohol is better at pulling oils out, so a higher proof of alcohol means it's pulling more essential oils out of the plant. At your 90% alcohol, this would be good for the really stubborn oils. It has a lot of pulling power, and it's good for gums, resins, things like that. The hint is, if it's sticky to touch, you probably want a higher proof of alcohol. This would not be as good if you want to get water-soluble components out of the plant, because well, there's so very little water in it. If it's 90% alcohol, then there's only 10% water, so it's not going to pull as much of those out. So stronger is not always better. Now, if your alcohol amount is too low, you're going to miss those constituents that the alcohol would pull out, and it's not going to be preserved very well. But if it gets too high, it's not going to hurt anything. It's not going to destroy the medicinal value of it, but it is going to miss some of those constituents that the water can pull out. It's also going to have a really strong taste. The first time I ever tried to make my own vanilla extract, because a flavor extract it's basically the same thing as a tincture. You use an alcohol to pull out the flavor of something. Those are the plant constituents. Anyway, the first time that I tried to do that with vanilla, I just used straight gem clear. It's like 95% alcohol, and it did a really good job of extracting the flavor, and you could taste the vanilla flavor underneath that alcohol somewhere, and it was just practically unusable for vanilla flavor because the alcohol flavor was so much stronger. So, moral of the story is only use as high of a proof as you need, or high a percent of alcohol as you need. So let's talk about adjusting the percents. The easier method, of which there's an easy one and a hard one, and let's do the easy one first. We're going to start with the same volume of two different liquids. So to do this, just add the percents of alcohol together and divide by 2. This is your new, that should say your new percent, not proof. I'm sorry about that. So for example, if you had 100% alcohol, you got this from some chemistry supplier that was actual 100% alcohol, and you added an equal amount of that to an equal amount of water, which is 0% alcohol, that would still be 100% because 100 plus 0 is 100. Now we divide it by 2, and we have 50% total alcohol. And that's with the same amounts, like 1 cup or 1 liter of alcohol and 1 cup or liter of water. Now let's talk about the more complex method. This is where you can really customize just exactly what you want your final percent of alcohol to be. Now, if math is not your thing, don't worry. Just hang with me for a little bit. It's okay if your eyes kind of glaze over, because right after this, I'm going to make it a lot easier. But let's go through the official way first. So, the steps are: convert your percent alcohol into a decimal. That's the percent alcohol of whatever you're starting with. Do that just by moving the decimal 2 places to the left. So if you had some Gem Clear or some Everclear that's at 95% alcohol, then you move the decimal 2 to the left and it's 0.95. Okay? Now, you take whatever you want your desired amount to be. Let's say you want to dilute that down to 50%. You convert that percent into a decimal, and you do that by moving the decimal 2 places to the left. So if we wanted it to be 70% when we're all done with it, we move the decimal 2 to the left and have 0.7. Okay, so we've got those two numbers. Now, you want to divide your current alcohol by your desired alcohol. So, in the example we had, that's 0.95, that's our current amount. We divide that by 0.7, that's what we want in the end, and that gives us 1.36. Subtract that 1 away, so we just have the 0.36, and this is the units of water we add for every unit of alcohol. So here's what I mean by that. If you have 1 liter of Everclear, so our unit is liters, for every 1 liter of alcohol you would add 0.36 liters, or 36 centiliters, of water. Boy, that was complicated, wasn't it? And you can do that, and you can get just exactly what you want. But you know what? Let's cheat, because cheating is easy. Okay, here's your cheat sheet. For all of these, we start with 190 proof. That's 95% alcohol. So something like a Gem Clear or Everclear. To get 47.5%, which is right in that 40 to 50% range, just mix equal parts of the alcohol and water. And that puts you right there, equal amounts. To get 71%, which is really close to that 70% mark, close, it's close enough that it doesn't really matter the difference. Then for every unit of alcohol, add 1/3 unit of water. So if you have 1 liter of alcohol, add 1/3 liter of water. If you have 1 cup of alcohol, add 1/3 cup of water. Or if you want to get just exactly 70%, you can add 36% of whatever unit to the water. And if you want to get a 90% alcohol ratio, then for every unit of alcohol, you're just going to add 6% of whatever that unit is of water. So if you have 1 liter of alcohol, add 6 centiliters or 60 milliliters of water to dilute that down to 90% alcohol. Or, it's really so close and that's such a small measure, why not just use the 95% alcohol? Because you're practically there already, right? And now, what about rubbing alcohol? Because the alcohol you use for tincturing, for anything you put in your body, it has to be the ethyl alcohol, the the alcohol that people drink. You can't drink rubbing alcohol; that'll kill you. So please don't. But you can use rubbing alcohol in certain circumstances. It's for topical use only, and topical, of course, means on the skin. You never ever swallow it. And if you do use rubbing alcohol, make sure that you very clearly label your container, because you don't want anyone having an unfortunate accident and becoming a cautionary tale. The advantages of rubbing alcohol is that it's much cheaper than the alcohol that you would consume. And just use it normally as you would in a tincture. Rubbing alcohol is a good choice if it's a plant that you already couldn't take internally, something like arnica, or well, I'm drawing a blank on other things, but anything that if you couldn't take it internally anyway, why not go ahead and use rubbing alcohol? Now, what about GMO alcohols? I hear this sometimes, and it's a bit controversial. A lot of the higher proof alcohols will be from GMO corn. And I do believe that GMOs are dangerous and harmful. I know that that's not universally agreed upon, and if GMOs are not something that you're worried about, well, then, go for it, and everybody should be able to make up their own mind. I really endorse that. But myself, as someone that's very skeptical, let's say, of GMOs, I want to know, does any of the harmful aspect of the GMO carry over into the alcohol? And this is kind of a debated topic. GMO corn is sometimes linked with gluten sensitivity, and that's for me as well. I'm gluten intolerant, and I don't have as much trouble with corn as I would with wheat. But still, GMO corn doesn't work well for me. And I am a pretty good barometer for GMO corn. I can tell without, how do I put this, without knowing ahead of time. It's not like a placebo effect. I've had some corn that I thought was safe, and then I'll start to get this kind of inflammation reaction, and then I'll go back and check it and find out, oh, well, goodness, this wasn't organic corn, this was a GMO corn. So there, I know there are a lot of people that say, oh, GMO corn, it's no different, there's no risk at all. At the very least, GMO corn is more inflammatory to me than regular corn. So there is that. It does have some reaction. Also, in not just in the corn, but in wines, in any of the alcohols, you got to think: are there pesticides that carry over from the plant into the alcohol? I know that that's a concern in a lot of the wines, because grapes. People growing grapes end up using a lot of pesticides. They're a very high pesticide crop. So what do you do with all that? What are you going to do? I have never had a reaction, a GMO corn type reaction, from the alcohols that I use in tincturing. Now, in tincturing, you also use very small amounts, so it might be that I just haven't hit that critical level. Because, I mean, you just take like a dropper full at a time, so that's possible. It's really hard to know for sure. The safest thing to do is to use the highest proof possible, because the highest proof is the more pure alcohol content and the less contaminants that would be in there with it. And that's I can't give you a really definitive answer, because this is all contested stuff. But if you want to use it, get the highest proof possible. And I will say that I think that that a very high proof corn-based alcohol is pretty safe. Okay, that wraps it up. This was a short one, huh? May you go forth and tincture well, and I'm sure at some point we'll do some more presentations on tincturing in more depth. I hope you enjoyed. Be sure and check out my Patreon, and you can feel free to support me over there and help me make more videos. And I've got some extra, prizes and perks for people that are patrons. And I will see you next time. Thanks for joining me.